You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
All right, what's up, seasons? Greetings, y'all. Welcome back to another edition of this year's Christmas SG Drive-In. So one of the things that I love about this time of year is, really, one of the things that I absolutely love about this platform in combination with this time of year is I get a chance to talk about some movies that are really special to me. And it's funny, this is a time of year where I'm not the biggest fan of Christmas, but there are some Christmas movies that I absolutely enjoy. But to tackle something like this, I needed help. So first up, I am joined by the one, the only TJ. What's up, man?
What's up? Thanks for the intro.
And we are joined by a returning guest to the show, David. What's up, man?
Oh, what's going on? Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So, The Santa Claus. We're talking about one of those movies that has a way of I don't know if you and I are in the same generation, David. I know you and I aren't, TJ. But for my generation, this is nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like this is childhood. And so, like I said, man, I was not always the biggest fan of Christmas, but there's a handful of movies that kind of pierce through that and are part of childhood for me. They have that experience factor tied in. So I'll start off with you, TJ. What's your experience with this movie?
So I'll get it out there. This movie is older than me and David.
Woof.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie came out in 93, but it's kind of always been there, for me. Every Christmas, growing up, we would watch The Santa Claus because it was on ABC Family.
Yeah.
It would be on. We're going to watch it. It's going to be on a few more times that month. We watched it in daycare. I was just a fan of Tim Allen as a kid, so I love this movie anyway. But it's one of the Christmas classics for me. It's up there with, A Muppet's Christmas Carol, Elf, Charlie Brown Christmas, one of those. I love this movie.
How about you, David?
So I grew up in Puerto Rico, and I didn't learn to speak English till I was like 8 years old. And there weren't many movies that were translated into Spanish or translated well into Spanish. And so this is the official Christmas movie for my family growing up. I mean, I watched this movie several times. For a while, if Santa Claus didn't look exactly like Tim Allen, I thought it was like some kind of cheap knockoff. I thought Santa Claus was always spelled with an E at the end up until like last year. Yeah, I mean, and when we finally learned or got comfortable speaking English, I watched this movie all the time. We didn't have was it Denny's that they had their Christmas dinner in? Yeah, we didn't have Denny's in Puerto Rico, and so I thought, man, Denny's has got to be this like magical place that's amazing. And I was so disappointed the first time I ate Denny's.
Yeah. There's only one Denny's. There's one Denny's that's like that. It's Denny's headquarters in Spartanburg.
Really?
Which is, because that, Denny's was started in Spartanburg.
What?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
ooh, I know where I'm having Christmas dinner.
Right.
That's funny. Yeah, it's funny. You look back at these kinds of movies, and you mentioned, TJ, ABC Family. A lot of these movies like this before streaming services and yada, 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 like that was really a gateway for a lot of people to be exposed to these movies for the first time, because these are prime fodder because it was all owned by the same company. And so these were prime movies to show on a network like that, because this movie, I struggle to think of a movie. No, I can think of exactly one other movie that does a comparable job of marrying humor for adults and whimsy for kids. You know what I mean? And that's A Christmas Story. And so for me to say that's saying something.
Yeah. So the Santa Claus 2 is not up there for you.
Not so much.
All right.
Yeah. With these kinds of movies, you tend to find the first one gets the blend right. Then as it goes on, because it's merchandisable, because you can make money off of it. What do you want to do? You want to drive more kids into it. And so you lean very heavily into the kid side of it, which obviously you can make the argument that that's exactly what a movie like this is meant for. But generally when that happens, it has a way of also losing a little bit of substance along with it.
Yeah,
I agree.
But the third one, though, I can't even think about anything. I cannot recall a single scene from the Santa Claus 3.
Wasn't that the one with Jack Frost?
I thought that was 2.
Yes.
No, 2 was where we had like the plastic toy Tim Allen or something.
I thought those were the same movie.
Oh no, you're right. Yep, those
Yeah.
were the same movie because it was Jack Frost like tricks the toy Tim Allen or something and tries to take over Christmas.
Yeah,
And becomes Santa
2
Claus?
is where he gets married to
Yeah.
the new Mrs. Claus, and then I think
Yes.
3 is the one
3 has
where
to be.
they're having a kid.
Yep. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's all coming back to me now. And then Charlie was like a delinquent in 2, and and his principal ended up becoming his wife. Yeah, I remember it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like core memories were just unlocked. Absolutely. Yeah, it's I don't know. So let me ask. I'll open the question up to the floor. What makes a movie like this span generations? You know what I mean? Like I was alive when this movie came out, and you guys, in obviously very different situations, grew up with this movie and were exposed to this movie at relatively a similar age. It sounds like y'all might have been a scooch older than me when this movie came out. I want to say I was like 4, maybe 5 when this movie came out. So what makes a movie like this so impactful that multiple generations can come together and talk about it?
Man, I gotta say, it might be Tim Allen. I don't know what it is. I've always loved Tim Allen. Home Improvement, amazing show.
Yep.
Zoom, horrible movie. If it's on TV, I'm gonna watch it because I love Tim Allen. What else? Toy Story, Tim Allen. Hello. He's just got something special.
Yeah.
I believe it might be something about how it's like. I just think that they presented it in a way that it's timeless.
Yeah.
I mean, the colors are vibrant. The message and the morals of the movie are like really simple, and it's just a fun. They, like you said earlier, they really handle the humor well, where the parents could have fun, the kids could have fun, and I mean, for me, it was the cultural thing that like we didn't get something in Puerto Rico until it was like 5 years old in the US, or in the rest of the United States, because we were behind. I like when SpongeBob came out in Puerto Rico in like 2003, I think, when it was already over here in like its 4th season. So
Yeah.
I think that played a big part in how my brothers and I started watching it. But I think the reason we can still enjoy it now is because it is timeless. I mean, it dates itself with like technology, but it's just fun anytime you watch it.
Yeah, it's so well made. I'm gonna laugh every time I see the Santa Claus. I'm gonna enjoy it just as much as the last time I watched the Santa Claus. It's just good. It's a great movie. in
Yeah,
my
it's
humble
hard.
opinion.
It's hard sometimes when you talk about these movies that have been a part of the periphery for as long as they have been, that to try and quantify what makes them so special. And I think for this movie in particular, it's layered. I keep going back to the same idea as what makes Hocus Pocus as good as it is, because it's a combination of a good through line and good individual moments within the through line. And I would say the same thing for this. And I think for me, part of what makes this so special is there's a magic that it tries to convey about the wonder of belief and the wonder of I don't want to make it I don't want to change the term of faith and say that it tries to show something like that, because I don't think it necessarily goes particularly in that direction, but there is this emphasis on reconciling the reality of what you believe in. And when you have that and you're able to capture that and like larger themes that get adults thinking and are nuancy and all of those kinds of things, and then you can package that within a story of generations of people discovering, you know, the magic of the situation and being swept away in the series of events. I think you've got something really special on your hands. And I think that there's something to be said for that kind of commonality that you can see in some of these generational movies that you hear discussed over and over again, and they remain in the conversation where others kind of fall off for a reason.
Yeah, I think another thing it does so well, it humanizes Santa, I guess, would be a decent way to say that. You know, it gives you like, my dad really could be Santa Claus. That's something special for a young child.
Right.
And even, you know, getting older, it's like, oh, my dad's starting to look kind of like Santa Claus. You know, it's happening. But
That's funny.
That's so common for so many people. And I just think it helps the younger kids cope with the fact that Santa's not real, which will be revealed to them if they watch this movie and they didn't already know, which could be a little shocking.
So that's like a spoiler warning for any of the kids listening who don't know. So I'm sorry, guys. Like, Santa's not real.
So since it was TJ that rang that bell and you can't unring that bell, then send all complaint mail to TJ Blackwell at AOL.com. You know, it's funny. You mentioned that, TJ, and I think of the scene of the kid in front of his class would bring your parent to work or to school day or the career day. You know, what does your dad do? My dad is Santa Claus. Like, there's an age bracket where, like, if you had the opportunity to stand in front of your class and say that your dad was Santa Claus, you'd think that was the coolest thing in the whole world, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a seasonal job, but you get a lot of respect for, you know, a big seasonal job like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I would tell my classmates that my dad was Santa.
Yeah.
Especially if I rode in the sleigh and delivered presents with him. I don't think you'd be able to stop me from telling everybody my dad was Santa Claus.
That's funny.
One thing I also think that the movie handles really well, and I thought of this the last time we were rewatching it, my wife and I, is that it handles blended families way better than any movie at that time.
For
Did
real.
you catch that? Yeah, like in most movies in the 90s, a blended family, the stepdad is a complete buffoon, like an idiot, and the wife leaves him to get back with her ex-husband. But this movie, they stay together throughout all the movies. And I thought, wow, that's not only realistic, but really interesting that they tackled that. And it wasn't like a main part of the movie. It was just there. I thought that was so realistic in rewatching it.
Yeah. And they still take the time for Tim Allen. I think, what is his name in the movie? Scott?
Scott Calvin.
Yeah. And he takes the time to explain to Charlie, like, hey, your entire family is important at Christmas. You have to stay with them. Which I feel like if I was Santa, I wouldn't say that. But if I was just a dad, like, yeah, that's a great message. But if I'm Santa, you know, like, that's not their fault. They're great parents, but I'm Santa. I'm
I
taking
found the body
with
first.
Me. Yeah, exactly. But
that's the fascinating thing. Like, for real, what this movie is dude fell off of this man's roof. He put the suit on and took over his job. But like, this is like a timeless class. Like, it's fascinating to me, the movies that end up sticking in the pantheon of cinema. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so absurd. But at the same time, it's really easy to believe that that's the way it always was.
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely believe that Santa just gets killed by the next stronger Santa. That's how it works.
Survival of the fittest, but for Santa.
Yeah.
There. So that scene, I didn't realize how much it traumatized me as a kid, because I thought of it, and recently my wife and I were watching the Santa Clauses, and in the first episode, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's like one of the first scenes, but Tim Allen falls off of a roof, and we both audibly gasped and like sat up, like this is over, like he's dead, because that's how easily it happened in the first movie.
Could you imagine in the first couple of minutes of the series, boom, done, new guy, there you go. Oh, people would be so pissed.
They just kill him immediately.
Imagine the Santa Clauses just being like a Santa dies at the end of every episode, and it's the Santa Clauses because there's a new Santa every episode.
That would be good. I'd still watch that.
Yeah. The horror
killing off Tim Allen, power move,
right? The horror fan of me would love to see like what that would look like. You know what I mean? The dangers of the job, but Santa Claus.
Dirty jobs, but Santa. Like but imagine that's how they all die. They all just slip off of a roof.
Right.
I mean, it's not beyond belief. It's icy up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That comes with the Santa Claus document comes with a waiver. You're not allowed to, you understand that you're probably going to fall off of a roof.
Yeah. No cleats, no ice spikes. You don't get a harness. You got to get in and out. If you fall, that's your fault. You had a good run.
But like, if you're Santa Claus, right? And you know that like occupational hazard number 1 is falling off of a roof, why don't you from the sleigh grab the bag that you know that you can levitate with and just float over to the chimney?
Yes.
That way you don't have to worry about it. Or like have the elves make you like traction shoes.
Yeah, some super cleats or something with like some Christmas magic or whatever.
It's just it's not even that complicated. Like just walk on the spine of the roof, 1 foot on each side. What are you doing climbing anywhere other than the chimney where it's much, much easier to fall off the roof? Then
he'd get somewhere like South Carolina, podunk nowhere, and all the roofs are tin. And so there's nowhere to step on, and it's just a slide to his death.
Yeah, but that's why you stay on the spine. You catch yourself. You
he just does a split.
Climb down the stovepipe. Because, we don't have chimneys in South Carolina. Unless your house was built before, like, 1990. No one does that here.
That's funny.
It's a tough route.
All the Santas just have splits down their pants from doing a split down the spine of the roof.
Yeah.
No, they have the Santa pants have that like special sewn in diamond right where the legs meet, like those Duluth Trading Company pants.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, occupational hazard.
Phenomenal. Yeah, so for me, like I said, this movie easily ranks in the top 5. I could confidently say in the top 3. I think with A Christmas Story and Charlie Brown Christmas, I think if I was forced to pick a third, that would probably be it. And I think in that order, definitely A Christmas Story at number 1. Depends on when you ask me, I think, between Charlie Brown and this. How about you guys?
A full top 3?
Yeah.
What a question. I do love A Muppet's Christmas Carol. I really do. It might have to be number 1. Elf, probably top 3 for me. Sorry, Joe. Most people do like that movie.
And most people are wrong. It's fine. I've accepted this burden on myself that I have to carry the torch for the people who are correct about this subject.
I love the original Rudolph, the 60s, 61 Rudolph, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, that's a hard question. That's a really hard question. Die Hard.
I was going to say Die Hard.
Yeah. Nice. So that'll probably be my 1, 2, 3. Muppets Christmas Carol, and then Die Hard, and then Elf.
There you go.
What about you, David?
So I would say the Santa Claus is probably my number 1, just because I watched it so much growing up. It's just got that soft spot in my heart. Number 2 would be Die Hard, just because I love the fact that that's clearly a Christmas movie. Mm-hmm. And number 3, I haven't watched a lot of Christmas movies, all right, guys. But number 3 would probably be Violent Night that just came out.
Is that good?
It's so good. It feels like a parody of 80s movies. Like at one point, Santa's on the phone, all Die Hard style, and he goes, "You better get ready, punk, because Santa Claus is coming to town." And it's definitely not for kids. It's a very, like, it lives up to the name. It's a very violent night.
Yeah.
But it borrows some of the lore from the Tim Allen movies.
Does
where
it?
like Santa Claus has to tap his nose to like magically go up a chimney and everything. And it's pretty dope. It's a good movie.
Is Violent Night in the Santa Claus expanded universe?
I don't think so, because it goes into some of the lore of the Santa Claus. It's kind of a curse. It's the Santa Claus curse, where you just kind of have to like live forever and deliver presents to ungrateful children. It's a good movie. It's definitely a dumb fun. It feels like a turn off your brain. This is a parody of an 80s action movie type of thing. But yeah, those are my top 3.
Yeah,
That's
that sounds
crazy.
like a good time.
So what about the Santa Claus 2? Santa has to get married. It's not the same.
I mean, it sounds like the American dream.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
You
I
have to
mean,
get married.
that's
Move to
about
America,
the
become Santa,
yeah.
get married. But
I think that's exactly what's wrong with it. Is it sounds like the American dream. You know what I mean?
But what I don't remember is what happened to Mrs. Claus.
She just
What do you
kind of
mean?
goes into the background. I
Yeah.
mean, they get married, and
No, the other Mrs. Claus.
oh,
Oh,
maybe she fell off a roof, or maybe
What
she
happened
just
to
like
her?
stopped existing once he faded.
That's what
into
I'm saying.
nothingness.
wouldn't that
Like,
wouldn't
these-
that be something like you marry Santa Claus, but you know that if he goes, you're done too.
Yeah, like what happened? Like, do they just
Yeah.
know that when their husband falls off a roof, they're gone?
I'd imagine that's somewhere in like that little card. Which, by the way, that's my favorite running joke. Is that like it's not a handbook? It's just you have to keep zooming in closer and closer to that card that he picked up. But
That's
yeah,
such a
maybe
good-
it's in there. Like your wife disappears when you do.
Do they get to know that? Because I'm nearly certain they don't talk about it at all in the Santa Claus 2. Hey, by the way, when I fall off my roof, you're gonna disappear.
Yeah, slight complication, but you're not going to exist. Have you ever seen Avengers? It's like that, but different.
Just interesting unanswered questions that the Santa Clauses could address.
Yeah.
Mr.
Could
Claus,
you-
I don't feel so good.
Could you imagine if the like in the Santa Clauses you meet Mrs. Claus? Like they showed the original Mrs. Claus from like the guy that
Ooh.
you know, and there's like this moment of like talking to her, even though like and like coming to terms with the fact that he's like progressing out of the Santa Claus position.
Well,
That would
they
be
do
interesting.
ask that question. They ask the question, but I think it's just kind of a throwaway gag. I mean, I'm only 3 episodes in the show, but in the first episode, Mrs. Claus is having like this identity crisis of like, well, what happened to the other Mrs. Clauses? Why do they all look like this sweet 70-year-old lady and I don't look anything like them? Also, what's Mrs. Claus's first name? Why don't I have a first name? And they go into all these questions, but don't answer any of them.
Sweet, that's perfect.
Yeah.
They know what we want, and they will not give it to us.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a perfect way for them to say that.
Oh
Man.
man. Yeah, I don't know. With how much you would think that would be a little bit more fleshed out with how much the emphasis came on his family after like you establish him in the role and then pretty much everything else focuses on Santa Claus the family man. And like I don't know. You would think that would be more fleshed out. But also like I'm not sure I would like it if it was fleshed out because like that's the part of the story that I dislike the most is the Santa Claus's family man sort of thing. But
Yeah. One other, like, this movie, like, irrevocably connected Thanksgiving and Christmas for me. Just because that's like, all right, I'll come get you next Thanksgiving and I'll bring you back to the North Pole. And so in my head, since I've been a child, like Thanksgiving, that's when the Christmas starts happening. And it's all because of the Santa Claus.
that's funny that the Santa Claus did that for you. What did that for me was the Macy's Day Parade always being on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
but like it would be so Christmas centric. That's why I don't understand people who are like, it's starting before December. Like Christmas always has started before December. Like consumerism is not new.
Yeah.
Since at least 1993, it started before December.
Yeah.
We never really connected Thanksgiving and Christmas growing up, just because Thanksgiving wasn't really that big of a holiday to us growing up. We actually had another holiday in February called Three Kings Day, and it's literally just a second Christmas. And instead of Santa, the three wise men would bring you gifts as if you were the Messiah on the way to see Jesus. And so that would be when the family got together, is in February, and we just give each other more gifts.
What a special holiday.
Yeah, you'd leave out grass or hay and a bucket of water in your yard for the camels.
That's crazy. I've never heard that. You never brought that up before.
So the community that I used to live in Minnesota was very diverse. And there was a family that I befriended that would tell me about that, tell me about Three Kings Day. And I thought they were screwing with me at first. I thought that I thought they were making it up. And so, but I looked into it and I'm like, all right, that's a thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. I remember we used to have parades and stuff in Puerto Rico, and we'd have like floats go through our little community. It was awesome. Sometimes the governor of Puerto Rico would be on one of the floats waving at everybody and throwing candy. It'd be awesome.
That's
There you go.
But imagine having like a January birthday, like a mid-January birthday.
Yeah.
That would be so tough.
Yeah. Right smack dab in the middle of both.
Yeah, you're not getting presents all 3 times.
No.
For real.
Something's got to go.
Man.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So, I think in bringing this thing in for a landing, for a movie like this, I think the name of the game is capturing something special. I think for me, a lot of the common thread for these it's all about capturing that something special. And for a movie like this, I think for adults and for especially for Christians, there's this it factor that exists in life, right? It's this, you can call it whimsy, you can call it wonder, you can call it a lot of different things. And a lot of adults don't have that for a lot of reasons. There's a variety of reasons why people just don't know how to live with wonder, with this sense of being in awe of something, and I think a movie like this, what it does so special is for adults and for kids, it allows you to get caught up in the experience of giving, like having that kind of like being swept up in belief, being swept up in wonder, all of that kind of stuff. And yes, where this falls off from the obvious angle that I am approaching this from is we're talking about Christmas, we're talking about Santa, we're talking yada yada yada. I understand where the analogy falls apart, but I think the principle stands, though. I think part of what makes this special, yes, Tim Allen, awesome. It fascinates me how some of these people, they really do transcend generations. Like, I don't mean to make a big deal about it, but like, we were born at least 10 plus years difference from one another, TJ, and you're sitting here talking about how much you enjoy Tim Allen's stuff. I grew up with the guy on my TV. You know what I mean? Like, Home Improvement was coming out when I was a kid. Toy Story, this, like, he was a significant figure in the cultural zeitgeist of the time. And so, there's that, there's the how well it's made, the jokes, the humor, all of it. But I really do think that at its core, it allows for people to be swept up into something magical. And I know that's a weird word for some people, magic, whatever. But like, there's this sense about the whole thing that I think as adults, if we allow ourselves to go there, if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to be there, something really special can take place. It opens it opens yourself up to accepting that there might be things larger than yourself working around you, and that you get to be a piece of that along the way.
Yeah. It's like The Shaggy Dog, another great Tim Allen movie.
You
Yeah, it's
lost
like
me
getting-
entirely. I don't know what that is.
No, that was after your time.
Didn't
Came out
you make
when
a movie
Cars
about
came
the
out.
time that he was caught with cocaine in an airport?
It was medicinal.
Yeah.
Medicinal.
medicinal.
Uh,
That's one of those. That's one of those fascinating things. You think that, yes, I understand that he has a past and all of that kind of stuff, but he never ended up getting canceled. That fascinates me that he never ended up getting canceled for any. Like, I mean, granted,
Yeah.
cocaine charges are one thing, but like, yeah, I mean, I think there's a reality to the fact that you can do this thing with your life, like make mistakes, do whatever, that sort of thing, and still be able to turn things around to being this person who provided something special to generations of kids, in different contexts, in different situations.
yeah.
I'm not going to put him in my top 10 actors of all time list, but he definitely is an actor of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe top 100.
One of the things that I always found weird about the Santa Claus movies and just the lore and the way it works and everything is, like the world is believing less and less in Santa, and now they're doing this thing where like, oh, if people believe less, then his magic lessens or whatever. But I mean, Santa Claus hasn't always been a thing, but it even in the first movie, he tackles getting like dealing with the parents who don't believe or the stepfather and everything who doesn't believe, but he's still Santa,
Yeah.
and I think that's where it differs from our faith. But I think it also was just a cool, at least in the first movie, a cool way to address it. Like, yeah, you don't have to believe, but it's still there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that was really cool back then. It's not the same thing now because they've retconned a lot of stuff or whatever, but I've always thought that was really cool. And it definitely does open up your imagination to be able to consider things.
Yeah, and that was always weird to me because he was Santa Claus and he could just go tell people and prove to people that he was Santa Claus. So why aren't people believing in Santa Claus? Pretty telling, if you ask me. Pretty realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm a Christian, so I consider all magic witchcraft. So
True. Yeah. Santa was in the Bible, though. That's
Yep. There you go.
yeah. That was in the Apocrypha. That's in 3rd Maccabees.
Oh, TJ, that's why we have you on the show, to offend people.
Catholics don't count.
Bro. Again, TJ Blackwell at AOL.com. So, I do. Yeah, I think there's something to what you're talking about, David. Like, I just, and I'll be the first one to admit, guys, I'm a little biased, right? I'm a huge part, like a very substantive part of what I preach in any time that I don't know about any time, but a lot of times, if you catch one of my sermons, if you catch one of my live streams, whatever, I'm talking about kingdom. I'm talking about wonder. I'm talking about standing in wonder of all of these conversations that we have about theology and we have about scripture, and we have about history and all of that kind of stuff. Let's stop and reconcile and allow the story to wash over us that the creator of everything is in personal relationship with us, that we get to say that we get to live in that actively here and now. We don't have to wait for heaven to experience that. That's the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. And so for me, something that dares the adult to go there, I only see more and more valuable as I get older, because I see more and more how seldom adults allow themselves to feel that and to experience that and to go there, because that's challenging. That's scary to go there, because it really does require that allowing for things to extend beyond yourself. And as a Christian, you should say, that probably comes across as, well, yeah, of course, but let me just tell you, when you cross over into being the guy at the front of the room, you realize more and more what that actually looks like in practicality. So, fellas, any closing remarks?
Go watch The Santa Claus. If it's not in your regular Christmas movie rotation, it absolutely should be. I don't know how you missed that one. Old Christmas movies aren't that good. Put it away for a year.
I would say this, in hindsight, this podcast was definitely not for children. I mean, TJ's over here spoiling Santa Claus for people, and I'm over here recommending Violent Night. I mean, geez, we need to put some kind of content warning at the beginning.
With your parents' express permission, go see Violent Night.
Oh man, yeah. Editor's note: make sure that there is a expressed warning for children and for Catholics. Do not listen to this episode.
Man, I hope our viewership numbers are solid.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna find out how big our how much of our audience base is Catholic by this exact episode. Thanks, TJ, for the market research.
Data analyst.
Yep. So, I have to echo, my closing remarks is, let this one get into your Christmas rotation. Go watch it. If watching a movie like this, when you watch it, yes, you're watching a kid's movie. Yes, you are watching a movie in general. There is a limitation to the story that is being told. I understand that. However, like we've been talking about this entire year, as I, with a variety of the other hosts, have been going through with the Narniad, there are some works that invite you into a posture of asking questions, of poking and prodding at the boundary markers a bit. Let this movie do that, because if you do that, and you do that earnestly, you be willing to get answers, be willing to investigate that, because the things that you're asking about, they're like at the core of what it means to actually live. This is not going to turn into canned sermon number 5, but those concepts of being willing to ask the bigger picture, what the bigger picture is, being willing to get caught up in the wonder of being a part of something bigger than yourself. That stuff, and what you find when you look exactly there, that is what it means to live and to truly experience this life. So with that, thank you guys for joining us for another installment of the SG Drive-In. Make sure you tune in for more great additions along the way leading up to our big Christmas special. And as we depart, we want you guys to remember one very important thing. We are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
This was an Anazao Ministries podcast. If you enjoyed this show and would like to learn more about our network, be sure to check out the Anazao Ministries Podcast Network.